Hello, and welcome back to the WABAN podcast. I'm your host, Nim, and I am joined here by the Joker.
You want to know how I got these scars?
Yes, tell me, how did you get those scars?
My father wasn't a very nice man. How long am I going to go on doing this, actually? Come on.
For that's the whole podcast. Just
Yeah.
you pretending to be the Joker. My father
He
was a
tells
drinker.
2 or 3 different stories about that, doesn't he?
Yeah. So, the whole idea is that, you're like, wait, what? How did he actually? You're not. I think the whole point is you're supposed to wonder and be like, what? Where did this guy come from? Because it never explains. He never has a name. Because they even say when he's in prison, they're like, yeah, he has. We haven't found any identification, no names or aliases. His suit is no brand. It's all custom made.
Yeah. He's just this mystery man.
Yeah. Which is he just exists. Which is that was sort of the thing in the comics too, is that the Joker never had an official backstory. It's always been a mystery. And there have been different versions of the Joker that have had backstories, but the main sort of version in the comics never had an official backstory, because it was, there's things like the Joker movie that recently came out that kind of that's an alternate universe one where it's it gave a backstory for a possible backstory for the Joker in a way, I guess, or the Killing Joke, which was a popular book, graphic novel, Batman graphic novel back in 80s, maybe it came out, that gave a backstory, but it's that's not the official backstory. It's just kind of for that set. It's almost a separate alternate version almost, where this is what it could be, kind of. So
I do remember hearing that one aspect of the Joker in his weird insanity is, in the comic books at some point they didn't call him insane, they call him having super sanity. So he sees things even more clearly than a normal person.
Yeah,
and sometimes that leads him to realize that he's in a comic book or in a story.
Oh, yeah. It is interesting. But yeah, no, that's always been the thing, because if you look at Batman's sort of rogues gallery, all of the Batman villains, which there's a lot. He has probably some of the most iconic villains ever. He might have the single best rogues gallery of any superhero character, right?
Yeah, he has quite a lot. Maybe only Spider-Man can keep up.
Yeah, Spider-Man has a pretty good one too. There's a lot of good characters there too. But if each one has a very specific backstory that's what defines who that villain is, and this is the backstory. Each one, even they'll make slight variations on the backstory in different versions, but their base, it's there has to be a certain essence of their backstory. This is needed to, that is the backstory of this character. But Joker is the one that never had an official backstory.
Yeah, he's just kind of a little ball of chaos that just gets thrown in.
Yeah, which is you'd think that would be a bad thing. Oh yeah, a character should have a good backstory, but that's kind of what that kind of works for that character,
it makes him what he is.
Yeah, he just is what he is, and that there's no rhyme or reason, which is the whole big thing of the Joker is chaos. There's no rhyme or reason to anything. He just does things,
Yeah, he's a dog chasing cars.
I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, so we watched in the past week, we watched The Dark Knight. So it's I don't know how many times I've seen. I've seen it many times over the years. It's been a while since the last time I'd seen it until now. But Yeah, it's your first time seeing it.
Yep.
So, yeah. So I guess starting off, what are your overall thoughts of the movie?
It's pretty good. Yeah, I can't really say I complain about anything in it. The rise of Harvey Dent to Two-Face and, all of Joker's antics.
Yeah.
It's all very well done.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I mean, at the beginning, the movie, I think they do a good job of sort of like ramping up the tension as it goes. So, like, for like starting off, it's like it seems like a very it's like it's a crime drama, right? You know, like they're investigating all these different criminal underworld. There's something about like the money that was stolen and where it's going, and like there's the one guy who's the one I don't remember his name. The one guy who is like in charge of
investor guy that went to Hong Kong.
Yeah, him. Like there's a whole thing with him, and like, you know, so there's all this like these average kind of criminals that are involved, and then behind it all, there's like sort of this rise of the Joker, where he just kind of shows up as just some guy. People are like, oh, the Joker, who's this guy? You know, and like, yeah, he's just some common criminal, but then he starts to like gain all this control over a lot of other people, and like starts to disrupt the system, you know, and it's kind of like everybody reacting to that. And like, what's he going to do next? And there's no predicting what he's going to do next because, you know, he has no sort of rhyme or reason to what he does. So it's very difficult for them to catch him because, you know, how are you going to predict the Joker when he
doesn't predict himself?
Yeah. There seems to be this constant sort of thought of like, what, you know, them trying like Batman's trying to figure out, he's like, what is his motive? What is his thing, you know? And then like Alfred's just like, yeah, Alfred has that whole conversation. He's like, yeah, you know, maybe he just doesn't have a reason. He says like, you know, some people can't be bargained with, can't be bought, you know.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, exactly.
That line. There are so many lines in this that I didn't realize were from this movie. Like, oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's actually one of the things that makes the conflict interesting is Joker's sort of view on like, you know, he's not working for any specific reason. He's just kind of causing chaos for the sake of it. So so when Batman, like there's the scene where Batman's interrogating him, and he's like trying to get the information. Joker's like
just laughing.
He's just laughing. He's like, you have nothing, you know, like nothing to bargain with me. Like there's nothing you can, you know, because like most of the time you could maybe find out what they're actually interested in and kind of use that
to point of leverage.
Yeah. But he has none, you know, he just does things, you know, there's no, you know, and I think that's where a large part of the portion of the conflict comes in is like, you know, I mean, you think about it, like anytime a crime happens, even in the real world, your first thought is always why did they do it? You know what I mean? Like anytime you hear in the news, like a shooting happened or, you know, whatever it is, you're always like, why did they do it? That's like at least for me anyways, that's one of the first things I think is like, why did they do it?
It makes Joker a very good and scary villain because that answer is always,
yeah, he's such a good antagonist for Batman because Batman likes to kind of figure things out, right? He always wants to. He's constantly trying to solve sort of the crime problems, right? Like,
right. He's as much as a detective as he is a fighter.
Right. He's a detective. He's always trying to solve problems. But there's really nothing to solve with the Joker. He just, you know, there's no predicting what he'll do next, you know. But like if you look at like other Batman villains, like for instance, the Riddler, you know, Batman probably loves tracking him down because he's like, he always leaves a riddle to solve. He always you know, but like
that's Batman's whole jam.
The Joker, it's like, just unpredictable. There's he'll do this, maybe he'll do this, you know. But yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think like what other major things. I guess like. So yeah, that's sort of the main conflict of the movie, and it's sort of taking, like, seeing how far, and Joker's whole goal is to try to push people to madness, right?
Yeah,
So
reveal like without the restraints of the society who they are without all that.
yeah, which is sort of where like Harvey Dent comes in like becoming Two-Face,
he
right?
succeeds with Harvey Dent.
Because at the beginning, you know, Harvey Dent is like, he's this perfect, upright, just, you know, he's the new district attorney here to take down crime, and he's Gotham's White Knight, right? Because, you know, obviously Batman is the Dark Knight, and the people are calling him the White Knight, right? He's the, you know, takes down criminals at a completely different approach than Batman.
Yeah.
So, because there's that there's a line closer to the end, you know, Joker's talking to Batman. He's like, I took Gotham's White Knight and brought him down to our level, you know, like,
yep.
And, you know, he did through the whole choose between Harvey Dent and Rachel situation that happened, you know. Yeah, it's... Yeah.
I always loved Harvey Dent's and Two-Face backstory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like the only thing I remember from Two-Face as a kid was one of the Batman animated series.
Yes,
where he has that coin, and he basically like puts a gun to a civilian's head in front of Batman and says, you know, pick a side of the coin. I'll flip a coin for it.
Yeah.
Batman obviously says heads because he knows that it's a two-headed coin.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, I just really love the idea of this guy who just, you know, one side of his face was gone, and he's just in a way insane and just on the edge at all times, and just, you know, leaves everything up to a coin toss.
Yeah. Yeah, because like at the beginning of the movie, he always does his coin toss thing, but like he's not leaving things up to a coin toss because he has a two-headed coin. Mm-hmm. He says like at one point, he's like, you know, you make your own luck, you know. But yeah, and he shifts to the chance thing, like leaving everything up to chance. Mm-hmm. Where, you know, he has this whole view where he's like, that's what's fair, because, you know, that's the only way to make something fair, right? Because it's just random chance, you know. Which sort of plays into Joker's whole thing with the chaos, right? Like, chaos is the only thing that's fair because it's, you know, it's just random. Nobody, you know, it's not planned by anyone. It just happens, you know.
Mm-hmm. I really like how they played into that dynamic too, when Joker finally convinces Harvey to go off the rails.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's really the Joker telling him to, like, you know, leave stuff up to chance every once in a while, you know, sow some chaos, and having him point a gun to his head, and Harvey just goes, okay, coin toss, you know, because I have this coin here.
Yeah. And it's funny because every time he does the coin toss to see if somebody lives or dies, every time it's like the person sitting there like, oh shit, am I going to live or die? Whereas when he's doing it with the Joker's just like, all right, do it. Yeah, he's like, now we're talking. Like,
no, that's more like it.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's like throughout the entire movie, you get this sense that like the Joker doesn't care if he dies right then and there. Like, he's like, you know what? Like, there's a part where he's like, he wants Batman to hit him with the motorcycle. He's with the bat cycle. He's like, come on, I want you to do it. Hit me. Because, you know,
come on, do it. I want you to do it. Hit me. Come on.
Because he wants to corrupt Batman, right? Like, because, you know, Batman's one rule is, you know, he won't kill. And the Joker's trying to get him to do it. And it's interesting because at the end, I think Joker has the realization, because Batman throws him over the building, but then he still stops him from falling to his death by like shooting a grappling hook down and pulling him up, and Joker's like,
Mhm.
you really are incorruptible, aren't you? Like, he's like, and it's almost like he comes to this realization of like, this will be fun,
Yeah.
like messing with you. Cause he said, we're destined to do this forever. You're not going to kill me because of some misplaced sense of self-righteousness. And I'm not going to kill you because you're just too much fun, which
They really do the Joker well, I have to say.
yeah. And the version of the Joker they do here is definitely unique, but it's also still the Joker. It's still
Yeah.
um, it's a little bit more of like a dark kind of Joker too, because he's actually terrifying in certain scenes.
Mhm.
When he's holding the knife up to somebody's mouth, telling the story, and when he films this guy on camera and asking him questions, and he's like talking to him and yelling at him, and he's like, look at me, like he's actually terrifying in certain scenes,
Mhm.
but also kind of funny at certain points too,
Yeah.
like
He has this, like, he's this insane little ball of chaos, and that transfers to every aspect of him, whether, going from funny to scary or just
yeah,
being so, like, you know, snap decision made and, impulsive
yeah,
that you don't
yeah.
know what he's going to do and you're, scared to find out.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like because you never know. Because it's like if you're there, you legit, and he's there, and you're at the mercy of him. You legitimately don't know if he's going to kill you or let you live. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because he could. Because there's that literally the like opening scene where there's like the bank robbery. He puts like a grenade like in the guy's mouth and has the pin like connected to this string, and the guy's
Mm-hmm.
sitting there like, oh no, he's going to blow me up. He drives away. It pulls. It's just a smoke
Smoke.
bomb. Just smoke
Yeah.
comes out, and the guy's like, "Oh," like,
And
yeah,
he like transfers some of that to Harvey into Two-Face with the coin flips.
yeah,
But the only
exactly,
difference in that is the victim can see it. They can see the
yeah,
progression and they can see the results.
yeah, yeah,
But with
yeah,
Joker, they have no warning.
yeah, yeah. It is interesting how they relate the characters of the Joker and Two Face, because I think their whole like the whole chaos,
Mm,
thing fits really well with Two Face, with his whole leave things up to chance kind of thing.
yeah.
The way they relate those two things actually like fits, like makes those two villains work really well together in like the same story.
Mm.
Um, so those are definitely good choices of like villains to pull from
Yeah,
for the
because if they
movie.
did like the Riddler and the Joker, they'd just be clashing all the time, or like even the Penguin.
Yeah, it might not be as interesting because because the way exactly, the way they relate the two characters really works.
Mm.
But yeah, no, so the one of the things that's praised most about this movie has always been the performance of the guy who played the Joker, Heath Ledger, is his performance as the Joker, playing the Joker,
Yeah, definitely.
and is still to this day one of my favorite acting performances ever. Like, it's genuinely like it's a performance that would be very easy to mess up and not do well,
Yeah, yeah.
because I feel like hitting that level of like crazy chaos and also fear, but like just could, if done wrong, could come off as like really fake. Like he seems like he's a real person,
Yeah.
but like also, I don't know, it's just interesting how, I don't know, it's difficult to discuss, but like so the actor Heath Ledger I don't know if you know much about this, but he put he put a lot of effort into the acting, a lot of method acting, a lot of real extreme, like getting into the character. He actually died before the movie was released.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think a drug overdose. It was actually really sad because he was only in his 20s as well, like later 20s, I believe. So he's still a young actor, and he he was a really good actor, and who knows what else he could have done had he lived. You know what I mean? Because like he's still in the early points of his career, but yeah, no, this is still one of my favorite performances I've ever seen, in a movie, and I think. Yeah, and actually he won. I mean, he was already dead by the time they did the Oscars, but I think he won. I believe he won for Best Supporting Actor or something. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like his performance, like the character of the Joker, like is insane and terrible, and he kills people without a second thought. But he's not. You can't quite describe him as malicious, because it's not that he wants to do any of this stuff. It's just that he makes the impulsive decision to do it.
Yeah.
And that really comes off in his acting, because, none of it's like angry or malicious. It is just like, ooh, hey, here's something to do.
Ooh, it'll be really interesting to see what, this person's last moments before they die. Well, because he had that part where he was talking to the one guy and he's like, I really, he's like, why I use knives more, why I prefer killing somebody with a knife than a gun or whatever. He's like, guns are too quick, With a knife, you can really savor those last moments of emotions and stuff. And he's like, in the last moments, people reveal who they are more than ever, like he really enjoys just like those interesting, gritty details of life, of just savoring those moments of somebody's last few seconds of being alive, like, which is,
and as odd as it is, it's not a malicious sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's
like he never
interest and curiosity.
He never kills anyone out of anger, hatred, because they're anything like that. It's literally just because he enjoys it, and because he just likes he likes seeing how people react to things happening that are unpredictable. Like he likes just seeing how people react to things, kind of. Like he does this whole social experiment with the boats,
Yes.
Which is one of the most interesting scenes.
I loved that, yeah.
Because it's like, in real life, like, yeah, how would people react to that? Like, what would happen, And obviously the Joker was expecting that one of them would blow the other one up, and they didn't. And he was,
I do really love that scene, especially, the big guy with all the tattoos and the scars, and he walks over and he's like, give me the detonator. You can say that I forced it from you, you can say whatever you need, but I'll do what you needed to do 10 minutes ago.
Throws it out the window.
Throws it out the window. And just sits back down in silence. Such a good thing. Such a good scene. I love that.
Yeah, and then there's the guy in the other boat. He's like they did a vote, and they voted in favor of doing it, but they sit there for a while after doing the vote because nobody wants to be the one to actually push the button, like, nobody, because nobody wants, nobody wants to actually feel like, it's one thing to vote yes on a piece of paper. Yes, I think we should do it on a piece of paper. It's a completely different thing to actually stand up and be the one person to push the button, because like no matter what, you'll always feel that on your conscience, kind of thing. And even this guy who was like, fine, I'll be the one to do it, he still couldn't do it, it's a very interesting scene, and it's a very interesting like social experiment. Obviously one that I hope nobody actually recreates in real life, because it's really cruel and terrible.
Well,
but But it is an interesting experiment to like think about, at least, like
Yeah.
how would people react, and it was interesting. It's interesting to see in the movie, but or when the Joker does the whole choose between Rachel and Harvey thing, because
Yeah.
I think the Joker knows that like Batman is fast enough to where he really only has time to get to one, whereas the police aren't as fast as Batman. So if they split up, they're not gonna, be able to save the other person. He kind of knows that, like, so he knows like when the bombs are set to set off. So he reveals it at just the right time, so that they only he knows, like, he's really good at calculating things out, I guess, to where like he reveals it at just the right time to where he knows there's no way that they would be able to save both, right?
Yeah, he kind of makes a plan, but only to the extent that it sets up his little sick games of chaos.
Yes. Yeah,
and then
exactly.
You let it play out.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because like he also lied about where they were. So he
switched them.
He said, and Batman immediately went for Rachel, right? Because Bruce Wayne is in love with Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think he kind of knew that.
Yeah.
And so he almost knew that he would go for the one that he said was Rachel, which turned out to actually be Harvey. And it's like almost like the Joker wanted Harvey to be the one to survive, but like still, if he wasn't, the Joker would have probably been okay with that too, because he'd been like, you know what, that's just what ended up happening. Whatever.
It was almost just like him just going, ooh, this would be a sick little twist.
Yeah.
But, like he just thought of it off on the spot. Very chaotic and Jokerish.
Yeah, but I also like to think that he wanted Harvey Dent to be the one to survive, because he wanted to be able to use that as a catalyst to corrupt Harvey. Because, Harvey is Gotham's White Knight. He's this perfect symbol of justice, and symbol of like the established order, the established justice system, So he probably, I like to think that he wanted him to be the one to survive, but like if he hadn't, he'd been like, whatever. But it's like interesting. It's interesting, like all these like things, like like he even says that he even says like, when he's interrogating him, he says like, Batman thought the Joker wanted to kill him. And he's like, I don't want to kill you. It's like, go back to ripping off mob dealers, drug dealers and stuff. No, that's boring. You're fun, like it's really twisted and messed up, because it's like just this idea of like, I don't know, what do you do with somebody like that, kind of? I don't know.
Yeah. You have no leverage against him. You have no way to predict what he does. And everything that he does isn't malicious or anything. It is just, this is fun.
Yeah. Well,
and, you're fun. I can mess with you and it can be fun.
Like, for instance, when he's in that like one building where he is where he's conducting the boat experiment, he just decides, you know what, we're going to take hostages and dress them up as clowns so people will think that they're my men, but his men are like dressed as like civilians, so that the police were targeting the clown people, thinking, like he just does that because he's like, wouldn't it be hilarious if the police killed all of my hostages? Like, because normally if you have hostages, you would use them as like leverage, like, no, don't shoot or I'll kill these hostages. Nope, he's just like, I'll let the police think that the hostages are my men, so the police are shooting at the hostages. He just thinks it's fun. He just thinks that's funny, probably. Like, how ironic, the police are trying to take out my men, but they kill the hostages, It's just, yeah.
He's such a weird little character.
Yeah. But also, like, there's interesting things too, where like, so the whole like, like what I was saying earlier. There's almost a point where like, if he died during one of these moments in the movie, he would be like, okay, yeah, I'm dying now. Who? Like,
end of the fun. Oh well.
Like even the beginning of the movie, because he has he hires all these men to do this bank robbery, and he tells all of them like at certain points to kill the other people so that they have less shares to split. Like he was told them to like kill off some of the other people, and none of them knew that he was one of the people that was there. Like the guy that hired them to do this was among them. They didn't know that. So like he could have literally caused himself to die there easily, by what if one of the other guys killed him before he killed,
Well, yeah, the one guy turns to shoot him. It's like, I bet he told you to kill me after this is all done. And like, no, I got the bus driver. And he gets run over. Like, he was seconds away from getting shot there.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is, and like, it's almost like he, because a normal person who like mob boss or like whatever would hire somebody else to do their dirty work and wouldn't be involved at all. But it's almost like he wants to be involved because he's like, ooh, I want to be there to see all the people betray each other and kill each other. Ooh, this will be fun. Like I have to be there.
Front row seat for this.
I want the front row seats, for it. And, and it's like, and then there's like the line at his first like big line. He's like, the guy's like, oh, what do you believe in? He's like, I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you. He pulls off his mask, stranger, which is kind of a statement of his overall philosophy, which is, you go through a bunch of crap and you're still alive, you're just going to become more and more insane.
Yeah.
What doesn't kill you makes you stranger, like
all the stuff that happens to you is going to affect you in some way or another, and it's probably not going to be positive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because like, so we're talking about this movie, right? And like most of what we're talking about is the character of the Joker.
Yeah.
Because like that is the most interesting part of the movie. Like, like
I did really love Morgan Freeman as like the tech guy.
Oh yeah, Lucius
That's
Fox.
Great.
Yeah,
because like there was a moment where he's like, Bruce Wayne just goes, I need to get on a plane to come back. Okay, get a good travel agent without it landing. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Like he's so excited to just do something insane.
Yep. Like, let's go all the way to Hong Kong so we can take this guy back to Gotham. Yeah. It's a fun time. Oh, and also in this movie, Jim Gordon becomes Commissioner Gordon.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because like in the comics, he's always, he's the commissioner, but like this shows him becoming, well, because the commissioner dies.
Right.
Because he's one of the, yeah, it's interesting because like, so the Joker, his first big thing was like, every day that the Batman isn't unmasked, people will die, right? But then later on, he's like, no, I don't want Batman unmasked, actually.
Yeah, that would ruin my fun.
And it's like, he just kind of changes based on like what seems more interesting to him. It's just like, oh, this seems like a really interesting, like at first he wanted to do that just to see how people would react, probably, right? Like, are people going to be demanding Batman unmask himself? Will he actually do it, or will he wait? Like, what's gonna, and then, Harvey Dent comes out saying he's Batman, which is interesting to the which at first, Joker even for a minute said, for a minute I did think it was Harvey Dent, but
seeing as how you seem to care so much for Rachel, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but that's part of also how Joker was able to predict that he thought the Batman would choose Rachel to save. Because he's like, like, oh, I saw the way you threw yourself at her, with the like one first scene there.
Right.
The one earlier scene. Let her go. Poor choice of words.
That's great. I do love all like the little like because they're all terrible actions, but they all have such like good either one-liners or just the insanity and comedy within them is great. Like
Yeah.
how about a magic trick? I'll make this pencil disappear. Slams the guy's head into it and it's gone. Or the poor choice of words.
Like, it shows that he has this genuine enjoyment in this. Like.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of like villains and like stuff where it's like they might not necessarily enjoy killing, but they do it for their goal or they do it because whatever. But he genuinely just loves.
Yeah,
he's loving life. He's getting punched and thrown around by Batman and he's laughing. Like
he's so casual about it that it allows him to take so much joy in it, and it's
and that's part of what makes him terrifying. Is like again, like I said before, there's nothing to threaten him with. You don't know, like he enjoys everything. Like Batman's throwing him around, he's laughing. Like, okay, well, how do I interrogate him if nothing threatens him?
Yeah, thing that really proves your point there. The first hit that Batman does to him in that interrogation room, the slamming his head on the table.
Yeah.
Is, don't start with the head. It makes the head all fuzzy. They can't savor the next hit. And he slammed his hand on the table.
He's just like,
goes,
see? Yeah. Yeah, he's not even like focused. He's just like, why would you do that? Whatever. He just, no, it's, yeah, Heath Ledger was perfect casting for it as well. He brings so much to the role that's just perfect. Like, I don't know. There's just something about, it's difficult to describe, but there's just something about all the little mannerisms and the way he says things. It's just
all the little motions.
All the little motions. Yeah.
He has so many good lines too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean the best lines in the movie are from him, like
I mean there's a few, some people want to watch the world burn. That was by Alfred.
Right.
But most of them are from the Joker.
Yeah. I'm like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. Yep.
Okay. Are we done gushing over Joker yet?
Sure, for now.
Okay, because I just want to mention the Batman voice is terrible.
Yeah, see, this is probably one of my least favorite things about the movie. So Christian Bale is a good actor. He does a good job as Bruce Wayne, but like when he's Batman, the voice that he uses, it's meme. It was memed on so much because it's hilarious. You're supposed to take it seriously, but it's just
so overdone. And so too gravelly and intense. You can barely understand it.
Because if you look at like some of the older like Batman movies, the usually like Bruce Wayne's voice and Batman's voice, there is like a distinction. Like he'll darken his voice a little bit, to kind of like. But like the way Christian Bale does it, it takes it to the extreme where it's like he's trying to say serious lines, like, but like he says it like, so you just you just showed that there are people in this town willing to believe in good. And it's like you're supposed to be really like taking that line seriously, but the way he says it, it just that's
not happening.
Probably my biggest complaint about the movie. And I don't remember, I think in the Batman Begins, which is the movie that's before this, I don't know if it was quite as extreme. Maybe it was. I don't remember. Yeah, that's one of the biggest like things that's made fun of in these three movies, because this is like
Right.
part of a second in a trilogy technically. Um, is the voice, like it just, yeah, and
It's just bad.
it's distracting too, because like
Hmm.
it sort of takes you out of the moment. Like you're like, this is supposed to be a really impactful, serious line of dialogue, but it's that voice just like kills it, you know, like
Yeah, you kind of expect like either a naturally deep and gravelly voice or like, modulate it with the mask. But no, it's just this really awkwardly overdone and too intense fake voice.
um but yeah, I don't know, have you ever seen like memes of that voice, like people making fun of that voice beforehand? Like, did
Almost
you?
certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was wondering if you knew about the whole weird voice thing beforehand.
Hmm.
Yeah, these are
I just
the
didn't realize it was this movie.
yeah, these are the movies that it's from, and it's annoying because it's like, I would consider The Dark Knight to be my favorite Batman movie.
Hmm.
Um, but that kind of annoys me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think a lot of people have said like Christian Bale is really good as Bruce Wayne,
Oh,
like
yeah,
his
yeah.
um, but like when it comes to Batman, like it's just the voice, and there's something also a lot about like the fighting and stuff. Like when he's fighting people in it, it's a little like you could tell that the suit is a little stiff and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
hard to move in, so it makes some of the fighting a little awkward. Um,
I do
those
remember in the beginning of the movie, he hands like blueprints to Lucius Fox
He's like, I'd like to be able to turn my head, like
to help on the drive home.
yeah. Well, the funny thing is like in the first movie, so in
Was that
Batman
his suit?
Begins, in Batman, yeah, I think I don't remember, but anyways, in Batman Begins, the whole thing was he would go to Lucius Fox and ask for like, he'd be like, "Oh, I need a really tough suit for." He would like make something up like cave diving or whatever, and like,
Mm.
and then Lucius Fox kind of picked up on what he was actually doing, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, that's what it is." And then every time anytime he would come up with a new request, he would like kind of make up a thing, even though like they both kind of know that he knows, like it was kind of like,
Right, right.
so in this he's like he would say like, I don't know, he said something about like jumping from a plane, like, oh yeah, I just want to, for fun. um
Yeah, I do really like some of the tech stuff in there.
mhm.
Because, even if it's the stupidity of, I want to be able to turn my head, like, yeah, you kind of need that. Why did you have a superhero suit that couldn't do that?
Yeah, why was the first suit not able to? That's kind of
Hmm.
weird. um
Or like the radar phones that he maps the entirety of Gotham with. That was pretty cool.
yeah, it was cool.
But they also mentioned how he gets in the plane without it landing.
Oh yeah,
He mentioned the name of it. That was something blah 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 from a test from the government a while ago.
yeah.
But that's a main tool in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. It's the Fulton recovery device. You
Interesting.
would just strap like this little backpack harness to a person, a balloon floats them up, and then a plane flies over and catches them. It's so
Interesting.
cool.
Yeah, no, that is cool. Yeah. I'm trying to remember, like there was some other things I wanted to. Oh, one thing I love is like the detail of like, so one whole like concept of the character of Batman has
Mhm.
always been the idea that like, so okay, so he's Bruce Wayne, he's really Bruce Wayne, and Batman is like a persona that he puts on. But in reality, it's almost like Batman is the real version of himself, and Bruce Wayne
Right.
is the fake version that he puts out to the public.
Well, that's always been a case in the comic books, right?
Right. Yeah. That's always been kind of a theme. And you kind of see that in like, I love like certain scenes, like for instance, so he goes to like he gets in his like Lamborghini or whatever to like stop the truck, and he like pulls in front and crashes. He knows exactly why he's doing that, and then like Jim Gordon, who doesn't know that he's Batman, by the way, gets out and he's like, oh, Bruce Wayne, right? And he's just like, yeah. He's like, oh, do you know like what vehicle you just stopped? You just stopped.
Very brave of you.
You just saved this guy. And he's like, what? Oh, I wasn't doing anything. What's going on? And he's like,
I was just trying to get to the light.
And he's like, oh, I think I need to go to a hospital. They're evacuating hospitals because of the whole Joker threat. And he's like, you don't watch the news, do you? And he's just like, oh, whatever. Like, he just seems like some, the rich guy who's some asshole rich guy, like, who only cares about himself when
rich kid living on his trust fund money.
Yeah, when he's not like that, but he does that as like that's the fake version of himself. Like, he plays it off really well. Like, and like whenever he goes out somewhere, like he brings like 3 women with him. Like, he just, even though in reality Bruce Wayne doesn't care about bringing women, like he doesn't actually care. He just does that to put on this fake persona.
Yeah, Harvey's party, coming in on a helicopter, 3 women in his arms, and they all split up, and he starts immediately giving like this like genuine like nice speech, but it's still like laden with the fact that it's in his penthouse. He just came off from a helicopter with 3 women.
Yeah. Or like at the restaurant, can we put 2 tables together? I don't think they'll let us do that.
They should.
I think they will. I own the place. Yeah. Yeah, but I've always kind of liked that aspect of like the character, because it's like, like for instance, if you look at other superheroes like Superman is the fake version of himself, right? Like like Clark Kent is the way he is. Like, that is his real personality. He really is, like, he really does enjoy being Clark Kent and being with Lois Lane, and like he's like he does enjoy that life. That is his real personality. But then he puts on the Superman suit as a separate thing. That's his like but with and same with a lot of other characters as well. But with Batman, it's always been this sort of like his true self is Batman.
Right.
I don't know if you ever watched Batman Beyond, the cartoon show.
No.
Okay.
Well, probably, but not that I can remember.
So basically, yeah. So basically, it's years in the future. Batman is, Bruce Wayne is like too old to keep fighting crime or whatever. So he kind of like gives up being Batman just because he's too old to handle it anymore. And it's a lot of like futuristic technology and stuff, because it's like years in the future or whatever.
I do remember this. There was the one guy that's like suit was much more sleek and like completely black with like a red insignia.
Yeah. So he becomes the new Batman. His name is Terry McGinnis, right? And Bruce Wayne helps him and stuff, like with a lot of the tech and a lot of the investigation stuff, but he does the actual physical, put on the suit and go out and fight and stuff.
Right.
And there was one scene where like there was one like villain or whatever where they were trying to trick Bruce into like thinking he's like going insane or something, and it was like he's hearing voices in his head. And he's like, and his voices are like, Bruce, you're blah blah blah, and it's like and then at the end he's like, yeah, I knew it wasn't really voices in my head. And he's like, why not? And Terry McGinnis is like, why not? He's like, I wouldn't have referred to myself as Bruce. Like essentially saying like, I am Batman,
Yeah.
Like, even though he's not physically doing the Batman stuff anymore, like he still considers himself Batman.
Right. He feels that is his true self.
Yeah.
There's even, I don't know where this is from. It might have been some animated movie or TV show, or maybe it might have even been a comic book, but I've seen online where Wonder Woman, holds out her lasso of truth to Superman and Batman and tells him, what's your real name? Superman says Clark Kent, and Batman says Batman, because he truly believes that is his true self.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That has always been like one of the interesting things about the character, because I think the whole idea is that like, so his parents died. He watched his parents be murdered in the streets. Obviously, that's, everybody knows that's the Batman backstory.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Bruce Wayne died with his parents almost, right? And he had to rediscover who he is. So he leaves for like 10 years. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't 10 years. He leaves for a long time as he grows up and like goes around the world training in many different arts and in all kinds of learning new skills, becoming smarter across the entire world. Right. And then he returns and he's trying to create a new persona for himself. And eventually he creates Batman. And it's like that's his process of almost becoming reborn as like a new person. Bruce Wayne died that day that his parents died, and he went through a whole process and eventually rebirthed as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And then ever since then he is Batman, but Bruce Wayne is, obviously the mask.
Yeah, to him, Bruce Wayne is just a tool that he uses to get money and, if he can't show up there in his suit.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing because that's always been something that's been explored a lot in Batman stuff, is like, it sort of is almost a tragic thing too, because it's like he never is happy with like a normal real life, kind of. He never moves on from the sadness of his parents' death, right? So he's always trapped in this sort of like state where he just can't have a normal life.
Yeah, he locked himself in a sort of limbo trying to fight crime in a city that's always going to have crime. Yeah,
and have you ever... This could be another movie we could talk about, but like, have you ever heard of it's based on the Batman the Animated Series. Mm-hmm. It's Mask of the Phantasm. No. It's like not a long movie. It's like an hour, 15 minutes. It's a really good Batman movie. I mean, it's animated. It came out in the 90s, but it's a really good movie. Mm-hmm. And it deals with a lot of it. Part of it is like the backstory, going through the backstory of him becoming Batman is part of the movie. Like it's him remembering back on it, but a lot of when he started Batman is related to what's happening now. And, there's like a whole side, like one of the main plot points is that like he meets somebody that he falls in love with and actually is kind of happy with. And he almost is conflicted because it's like, he's like, oh, maybe I could actually be happy. And that's like sort of a weird, it's like, and it's like throws a wrench into his life because he's like, I didn't expect to actually be happy again, then it's like, stuff happens. Anyway, I don't know. It's like they kind of explore that whole idea in an interesting way.
Right. The idea that the impossible would happen and Batman would want to put down the mask.
Yeah. And it's like and it's like a conflict within him because he swore on like his parents that he would do this and try to like, fight the crime, like do whatever, and he's like, he wants to not do that anymore. And he's like, there's a scene where he's like literally on his parents' grave. He's like, I know I promised. He's like, but I didn't expect this to happen. He's like, I didn't expect to be happy. And like, it's actually a really good movie, but, yeah, no, there's a lot of interesting stuff with the character of Batman.
Yeah.
But I mean, we sort of steered a little off from this movie specifically, but
yeah,
that's
we
okay,
just went into Batman at this point, but
just Batman in general, Yeah. But that's okay though. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like other aspects, like other characters. I mean, we already talked a little bit about like Two-Face, kind of.
Yeah.
But I don't know, unless there's much more you want to say about that character.
No, I think we covered at least broadly.
Yeah, I think the way they utilize the characters really well. Like you utilized definitely. It really well for, like it fit with the story they were telling in the movie really well. But yeah, and then let's see what other Jim Gordon is obviously an important character. I also, what do you think of the ending of the movie though? Because so the whole thing at the end was, Harvey Dent is dead, and he's like, Harvey Dent was a symbol of hope for this city, and now
they can't let them see that the city see what he's become and lose hope.
Yeah, so they're like, what about all these people that he killed? Who's going to take the fall for that? And Batman's like, tell them I did it. And Jim Gordon knows the truth. He's like the only person who knows that like Batman isn't guilty. Well, besides like, Alfred knows,
yeah.
and like maybe Lucius Fox probably knows too, but like everybody else, like it's he has to call it. He's like call it in, tell them that I did it, and then he's like rides off and into the night or whatever.
There's Commissioner Gordon's whole speech of like, we have to chase him because he can take it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and it's like Batman is whatever we need him to be at the time, and right now we need him to like take the fall for this.
Yeah,
because it's interesting, and like he has to go on with the lie, telling people, yes, Harvey Dent died an honorable man, like despite the fact that Harvey Dent was literally threatening to kill his own child, but he still has to, like, I wonder what that must be like for him, like it's like you always think like you just watched Harvey Dent hold a gun to your own son's head and almost kill him. And now you're going to go on and talk about how great he was and how he died an honorable man. Like that must be like,
Yeah. I mean, ideally he would, remember Harvey before he became Two-Faced and, just blame the whole Two-Faced thing on the Joker.
Yeah.
But would he be able to separate those two?
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting place to end the movie, but yeah, it's a good movie, but yeah, because I mean the whole Harvey Dent obviously was pushed by the Joker, right?
Yeah.
The Joker has that line where he's like, anyone, what does it say? He's like anyone is capable of. What did he say? He's like, what they say? He's like, it's like what they say about like madness or something. Like all it takes is a little push, or madness is like gravity.
Yeah, like gravity.
It's like madness is like gravity. All it takes is a little push, that's actually another thing that kind of has always been a big thing with the Joker too. And obviously the movie pulls from a lot of comic stuff, I'm sure, to create this version of the Joker,
right?
But in like the Killing Joke, what I was mentioning before, the Joker's whole goal in that comic is to corrupt Batman. Was it Batman or was he trying to corrupt? Maybe it was Jim Gordon. He was trying to corrupt because he did like all these terrible things to him specifically. That's what it was, and he's trying to prove that. He's like all it takes to become like me is like one bad day, is like kind of is the same thing as that. All it takes is a little push, to
it is very interesting how he just wants to see it happen, wants to see their brand of insanity.
Yeah, exactly. Because he targets Harvey Dent because he is the perfect symbol of justice and order, and
he wants to prove that even the best of them can fall.
Yeah, exactly. And his whole I like the whole speech he has about like plans. He's like oh, everybody's schemers. Nobody panics if things go according to plan. Truckload of soldiers gets blown up. Nobody panics because it's part of the plan. But one mayor dies. suddenly everybody loses their minds. That's another line that's been memed a lot. You know, people always, they'll like change the words. They'll be like,
right.
this happens and nobody panics. This happens, everybody loses their minds. You know, that's when that's always a big meme too. But no, that's like one of my favorite lines because it's like, it is kind of interesting when you think about it. It's like, you know, think about like how many just random senseless deaths there are in the world every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we just kind of, you know, nobody panics. We're just like, yep, whatever. A bunch of people starved to death, you know, in third world countries. Okay, whatever. How many of them died today? Like a lot, you know, every second, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
and it's
a lot.
A lot. And the numbers are high. And we're just kind of like, whatever. But then as soon as like, let's say, I mean, it's been a while since this happened, but like, let's say the president gets assassinated, you know, that's like a huge deal and everybody freaks. It's like, you know, that's just one person, you know what I mean? But it's, you know, because like, he's not, it's like, that's not according to the plan, you know, like he's not supposed to die. He's supposed to, you know.
It's such a horrible thing to think about, but yeah. We've, like, you know, marked certain people and individuals in our mind as like
more valuable,
or even if you don't quite want to say it that way, as like these people can die, like these people are likely to die, and we've prepared for that. But someone like the president, we're not prepared for that at all. That's not supposed to happen. That is not something that we can handle.
Yeah, I mean, you even think about it, part of it does have to do with like how likely someone is to die too.
Yes,
like
that's what I'm getting
so
at.
For instance, just think about the difference that people react if they hear that an old person dies as compared to like a child dies, you know what I mean? You know, like one just seems more tragic than the other, you know, because it's
course.
like but but no, it is interesting how that, like, you know, it's
people are weird and terrible, but it's the way we are, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing though, is at the end of the day, if people did freak out about every death that happened, nobody could focus on anything else, you know, because like think about how many people die every single day in the world, you know what I mean? It's like
every aspect of this is terrible.
Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, the world is a messed up place, and it's like you do what you can to like get by in it, you know, but yeah, that I've always found that is like a really interesting point, you know, like you said, you know, a truck full of soldiers gets blown up, nobody panics, one mayor dies, everybody loses their minds, you know. Yeah,
that's depressing.
It is, but yeah, I mean that's part of the Joker's sort of, I mean, if you're looking at the character of the Joker, it's, you know, part of what you gotta talk about is how it's like he sees life and existence as just one big joke, you know? Like, he's like, everybody's attempts to control things is pathetic. Like, they're trying to control life, even despite how uncontrollable life is, you know? Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a really good movie. I love these sort of like, it starts out, it's just like, you know, it's a crime drama. You know, you're trying to solve crimes, whatever. And then it sort of, as it goes on, like it starts off, it's moving pretty slow, but then like as soon as you start to really get into it and you get more of the scenes with the Joker and stuff, and it builds more. That's when it gets really interesting.
I especially liked when the Joker, like they caught the Joker and he's in prison, and they go to interrogate him, and they're like, you know, you're gonna go away for a long time. And I looked at, you know, the progress bar, and I see an hour left. I'm like, is he though?
Is he though? Yeah. Well, yeah, because there's a certain point where you're like, yep, they caught him, and you're like, all right, is that the movie? Then you're like, wait a minute, no.
We got an hour left of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that's already, I mean, the movie's decently long. Like, it's
2.5 hours about, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love his like plan of escape too. Like he literally comes out and he has this guy at knife point and they're like, oh, he's just like, I just want my phone call.
Okay.
Like, oh, sure, to have your phone call.
And then it blows up the bomb in the guy's stomach. Oh, that was so weird seeing like the cord and the phone light up.
They're just like, is that a phone? Boom. Yep. And it's I'm trying to. There's another thing I wanted to mention, but I don't remember. It was something about like something that the Joker did, but I don't remember.
The Joker did a lot of things.
Did like when he just burnt the whole pile of money.
Oh yeah.
You know, like the entire movie was this whole thing to get the money back, and there was the whole thing. The mom was trying to get it, and Joker was helping them. They finally get it back. He's like, all right, it's gone. Haha.
He's like, so what are you going to buy with your half? Well, you see, the things that I like are like dynamite, gunpowder, gasoline. You know what they all have in common?
They're cheap.
And he just lights it up.
He's like, I'm a simple man. I like simple things. And he burnt the money with the one guy on top, sitting on top of it. I like the one first, not the first scene with the Joker in, because like
not the bank scene, but like them sitting at the table with all the mob bosses.
Yeah, and he's like sitting there, and he's like, oh, Batman will get to you, or he's like, oh, they'll get to you. He's talking to the guy on this. He's on the screen. He's like, I know a squealer when I see one. He's just like, yep, he'll squeal. And they eventually do get to him because before the Joker enters the room, that guy has like complete control over like the room, right? Because he's the guy he's like, I already moved the money, haha, without even asking you guys, and he's like in complete control of everything.
Right.
Joker comes in, suddenly Joker's in control of the room, and then this guy like leaves because of the Joker. This guy's like intimidated, and he just turns off his like video call,
right?
Because like
the magic trick.
Well, and then he had his like all these grenades rigged in his pocket.
Right. I do love how subdued the Joker is in that scene too, because he's not like the impulsive Joker in that moment. He's just like, grenades. It's like, wait, I want to hear the proposition. He's like points back and forth, like, listen. He's just like very calm, like he knows that he can die, and if he dies here, it won't be as fun. So he just like is very cautious about it.
And but he knows it. He knows it'll probably work because he's like, these guys care about living more than I do. So and plus they know he's insane. So like, he might kill himself just to do this. Like, we don't know.
He just did a magic trick by disappearing a pencil into a guy's head.
Ha, ha, ho. I love how he does his like laugh when he walks. He's like, ha, 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 ho, ha, he. And I thought my jokes were bad. But no, I still, like I said, that's one of my favorite acting performances of all time. I love it. But yeah. Do you have any other things you want to mention about the movie?
No, it was a good movie. I liked it.
Yeah. By the way, can you hear my dog barking in the background?
A little bit, yeah.
This always happens. It always happens without fail. Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot more to say. Yeah, it's a really good movie. Probably my favorite Batman movie. Have you seen any other Batman movies?
No, not that I can remember, at least.
Yeah, yeah.
At least none that were, good or memorable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's been many over like many years, so it's
Yeah. I've probably seen a few animated ones,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't separate them from the animated
Like
movies
the
and the animated
show and
show.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it was
yeah,
too
yeah.
long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I don't have a lot more to say. Yeah, really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Batman's voice is kind of annoying and distracting.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. Like it's
Just use voice modulation or something.
yeah, it's the kind of voice you would expect in a Batman parody,
Yeah,
not in the
yeah.
actual Batman movie that's where it's supposed to be taken seriously.
Or like a child doing a Batman voice.
Yeah, like somebody like yeah, sometimes it works like when he's like yelling at someone where he's like yelling at a criminal like where's this like whatever, but when he's just talking it's
Yeah,
like
no,
okay,
like
you don't use that voice when you're just talking to like Jim Gordon like yeah, I'm gonna help capture the criminals. Okay, yeah, I've investigated it and I found out that this guy like
what was
no
that?
what
I think your mask is causing static right now. Can you repeat that?
yeah, it's like it's one thing when he's like yelling at a criminal to interrogate them, like, "Where's Rachel? Like, where's Harvey?"
The loudness and the intensity like breaks it up a bit so you can understand it.
Right? That's one thing. But like when he's just talking to Jim Gordon,
yeah, it's like this weird like gravelly stage whisper that just doesn't work out.
or when he's talking to the Joker at the end, and he has like a big line where he's like. The people of the city just showed that they're ready to believe in good. It's supposed to be this serious, like, but the way he says it, they're ready to believe in good. Like it's,
I'm Batman.
yeah, it's very easy to make fun of.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it's no wonder it's been made fun of as much as it has been. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, I don't really have a lot more to say.
Nope, I'm all good.
All right. So, anyways, yeah, thank you for listening to the WABAN podcast. Next week, we are going to continue our discussion on BoJack Horseman with season 3. So we already talked about season 1 and season 2 of BoJack Horseman. Yeah, so that's exciting. Let's see, what else was I gonna say? I feel like yeah, that's all I have to say. After that, I'm not sure what we're gonna do the week after that. I think I'm gonna try to invite guests on, so maybe we'll have a guest, or maybe we'll do another movie 2 weeks from now. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so we'll continue BoJack Horseman next week. Thank you for listening. Wherever you are listening to it, I will go over the multiple places you could listen to this podcast on. So you can listen to WABAN on my YouTube channel. YouTube channel. My YouTube channel.
It's camel like, with like a screen on it.
It's a cross between a channel and a camel. Yeah, a channel. My YouTube channel, which is called Nim TV, NIM-TV. You can also listen to it on Anchor. These are all the audio platforms you can listen to it on. Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Definitely check it out on an audio platform. I would love to push the podcast more on audio platforms. I really want to get it up there. So yeah, it would help us out a lot if you did that. So yeah, also the podcast is released every Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So that is when you can expect a new episode to be released on both audio platforms and on YouTube. It's the same for both. So, so be excited for that. Look forward to that. Anyways, thank you so much for listening this week. I've been Nim.
And I'm the goodest boy.
Goodbye, everyone.